So I've been talking a lot about ETFs. I've been trading a lot more ETFs now that there's a lot more ETFs out there to trade. One thing that I always get asked all the time when I'm doing these is how do I find out what these ETFs are holding? I found a perfect example for when you may really want to know that. So, this ETF right here is XSD, and you can see right here on the top of the screen, I have this, which I do all the time, where I sort. Here's all the ETFs that were up the most yesterday. Here's all the ETFs that were down the most yesterday. You can very easily say, okay, wheat stocks down, solar stocks down, XSD and SMH are up. Well, what are these? Well, this one says semiconductor ETF, right? And then this one here also says semiconductor ETF. So this one is done by the Spiders and this one's done by Van Eck. The question is, why is this one not doing much and this one's actually breaking out of this range? And what information can I get about that and how can I figure it out? Well, the beauty of it is they have to tell you by law. They have to publish their ETF holdings. So, very easy to find. So I went and I Googled this right here. I went and I just Googled XSD holdings, and this was the first result that came up. Here's the top holdings. You can see a lot of pretty much everything is around 3% to 2.5% of the holdings, and then it starts to get a little dwindled down here. But most of them are sitting around 3 to 4% of the holdings. So pretty equally weighted, not in its mandate, not exactly equally weighted, unless it rebalances periodically to become equally weighted. But then you take a look at Van Eck and its holdings, and 21% of it is NVIDIA, and then we have 13% of it being TSMC. So it becomes pretty clear. Now, what can we infer from this? Well, if the XSD is doing better and it's pushing up higher, well, we might want to take a look at some of these names, but it's just saying that overall, these individual names are doing fantastically. If you take a look at something like NVIDIA and Micron, or NVIDIA and TSMC, one of these names have to be lagging a little bit, just the math behind it, right? So Nvidia, see, hasn't broken out just yet, still strong, hasn't broken out, and TSMC pulling back over the last few days. So that makes perfect sense now why this one, which is a little bit more equally weighted, a little better representation of what the average semiconductor stock is doing, is performing better than SMH, which is really weighted to those two big names. So also tells you how you want to trade it. If you think that there's going to be some sort of trickle down effects in semiconductors where you're going to have uh, Nvidia and TSM, maybe these guys are a little bit tapped out, but you think people are going to start investing in these other names that are a little bit smaller, a little bit down the cap scale, a little bit less in the news. Well, then XSD may be a really good look for you. And then you start to look for things like CRDO. This one actually looks very, very good as it's breaking out. And we can see if we go in here, this CRDO was actually its top holding. So LSCC was its next one. We can go LSCC. Yeah, and that's starting to break up here as well. And I saw that was Intel was in there, and Intel's been holding on. But it's just saying that, hey, the average semiconductor is doing a little bit better than the big name semiconductors. So it might be time to take a look at those. Again, I love this way of researching and looking at different markets. Just something that I like to pick up. Make sure you know. I see a lot of people quoting these ETFs, but just take a couple seconds if they interest you and dive in a little bit deeper into those ETFs and see, hey, what's something that's I can actually learn from figuring out what the holdings are.